before Jacob is able to recover. So we're going to see here if Brian is keeping the 6. Jacob is keeping his 7. Looks like Brian is going to keep the 6, and bottom, I believe I saw a blood crypt go down. Alright, we are off. Alright, Jacob is going to start with the titular card of the deck, Amulet of Vigor. Also playing what I believe to be a Mycosynth Garden. This is a relatively new card, which is a land that is notably able to make itself into a copy of Amulet of Vigor. Alright, so we're going to see the turn 1 Grief here from Brian. Hitting only the 1 ring. All other targets here are lands. Jacob seems very happy about this. Let's see if we see the not dead after all, undying sort of effect, just to get a body into play and end this game. Start attacking. Yep, we are going to see, I believe, not dead after, or not, I think feign death. Yep, so that's going to bring back Grief tapped. The ETB will happen again, but it will have no targets because there are no non-land cards in Jacob's hand, and it will get a +1 counter. Right, Jacob just going to play a forest and pass. So we see Castle Lochthwain and a dashed Ragavan from Brian now attacking for 6. This Ragavan, once it connects, is going to flip the top card of Brian's library and generate a treasure token for Brian. Brian hits Amulet Titan, which he will not be able to cast, and moves to the end step, returning Ragavan to his hand. Right, at end of turn, Jacob is going to make that Mycosynth Garden into a copy of Amulet of Vigor, meaning any lands that enter untapped will trigger 2 amulets and be able to tap and untap twice. Seeing an Urza's Saga, another very powerful, not so recent, given that Modern Horizons is about 2 years old at this point, but addition to the Amulet Titan deck. This is a very strong card, which is going to be able to make Urza's Saga tokens, and also grab likely another amulet. From Ryan, we see another dashed Ragavan, another land, coming in for another 6 damage, bringing Jacob down to 8. It's going to generate another treasure token, flip the top card of the library. And it looks like Brian is content with that turn, just moving to the end step. Alright, Jacob fumbles here. We see a Arboreal Grazer drawn for turn. Urza's Saga is going to tick up to 2, being able to make tokens now. Unsure of what Jacob is naming here on the Cavern of Souls. To be honest, I'm not familiar with the deck, and I'm not going to be able to know what creature types it'll name, but relevant things are going to be whatever the hell Amulet Titan is, whatever Arboreal Grazer is. Won't be super relevant in this matchup except as a colored source, because the Scam deck is not running any counterspells. End of turn, Brian just getting a swamp here. Could possibly be seeing a Blood Moon. This would be an effective way to both deal with the Urza's Saga and shut out Jacob from further land shenanigans. End of turn, we're seeing a treasure and that swamp used to cast Orcish Bowmasters. It's going to ping Jacob for 1 and also put an Orc token, army token on the battlefield. This is going to help increase that clock for Scam. And I believe this turn with the Ragavan dash, Brian is presenting lethal. Jacob is going to be able to generate a 3/3 Urza's Saga construct token. But I think, assuming that the Ragavan is blocked, Jacob's going to go to 1 here. Looks like Brian is using that treasure token to Lightning Bolt the Urza's Saga token, which is a 3/3 will die to bolt, and Brian takes it. We will move on to sideboarding for game 2. That was an excellent showing from the Rakdos Scam deck. This is precisely what the deck wants to be doing in this matchup. That turn 1 Grief is instrumental in tearing apart Jacob's hand and applying early pressure. We saw 4 damage per turn coming from Grief, which is huge, especially at these early stages of the game. Ragavan also coming in clutch, being able to generate tons of mana advantage for Brian, even facing against an opponent that is essentially sort of a combo ramp deck, and was consistently able to maintain pace here. I guess some cards to look out for in Game 2. There's good potential for the Scam player to be bringing in Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon sort of effects. These would make it so that the lands entering the battlefield essentially have no effect. These lands, especially these bounce lands, are huge combo pieces for the Amulet Titan player, not being able to generate multiple mana and not being able to return things to your hand could be a huge problem. Jacob is likely tasked with bringing in successful answers to these threats. In particular, Force of Vigor is a very strong card. It's a free spell which is able to destroy 2 artifacts. Much like the Pitch Elementals, you can discard a green card from your hand to cast it for free. All right, both players have sideboarded and are shuffling up for round 2. I think it's fair to assume that Jacob will be taking the play and hoping to avoid that turn 1 Grief. Alright, both players have shuffled, presented the decks for cutting, and are moving to draw their opening hands. Alright. Looks like Jacob is keeping his opening hand. It looks like Brian's going to keep as well. Jacob leading on a Forest. Amulet of Vigor, very strong start. Forest is also fantastic here because it's going to help dodge the Blood Moon and be able to cast cards that help get rid of that should it come down. Brian draws his card for turn. Looks like he's thinking through some lines here. Perhaps considering turn 1 Ragavan, turn 1 Scam Effect, Thoughtseize. Alright, Brian's going to shock in a Blood Crypt down to 18. Do see a Ragavan. Ragavan could be coming. This, of course, does not play very well into the Arboreal Grazer. Alright, so Brian at 18 from the Blood Crypt is going to pitch cast Fury. Not seeing... Okay, exiling another Fury. And is going to bring it back with Feign Death. This is going to put a 4/4 double striker into play on turn 1, which I think is a 3-turn clock here. Jacob's going to have to deal with this very quickly if he stands a chance in this game. Playing another Forest and passing. Things are not looking good for Jacob over here. All right. Brian moves straight to combat, attacking with the Fury for 8. pitch cast another Fury. It looks pitching Blood Moon, taking an incredibly aggressive line here, bringing it back with Not Dead After All, which is a new card from Wilds of Eldraine. It is going to bring back Fury. Instead of bringing it back with a +1/+1 counter, it brings it back with an aura, which reads, when this enchantment is put in the graveyard, your opponent loses 1 life. So Jacob is... Oh, it also gives it +1/+1. So Jacob is facing 2 4/4 double strike creatures next turn. That's 16 damage. That is lethal. It looks like we might be stopped on Brian's end step. Alright, no. We're in Jacob's main phase. Jacob is casting a Summoner's Pact, searching his library for a green creature. Might just be looking for a blocker to put some lands into play and survive the next turn, or could potentially be comboing off with this Amulet. That Summoner's Pact is free, but it will have to be paid for at the beginning of the next upkeep. So Jacob could be looking for a winning line here. Casts Dryad, plays a bounce land, returning that stronghold to play, and passes. So Jacob is going to be forced to block here and is going to end up dropping to 4 without a removal spell. Alright, Brian going straight to combat. Swinging with both of those 4/4 Furies. Jacob opts to block the one with the +1/+1 counter and takes 8 damage down to 4. Second main phase, Brian casts a Ragavan and then passes. On upkeep, Jacob is going to pay for the Pact, draw a card, and severely limited on mana. It's going to be very tough for Jacob to claw back into this game. And we can see he scoops it up. And Brian is going to take round 1 with a 2-0 victory.